Coming up on Risers and Fallers, we have running back breakthroughs, wide receiver panics, and a quick little Thursday night football preview right here on Player Profiler. All right, let's bring in the man himself, Evan Ringler, so we can get this baby rocking and rolling. Evan, we're 3 weeks into the fantasy football regular season. How's it treating you?
Doing pretty good, getting a little tired, but it's nice to be back, man. I'll tell you what.
It does feel pretty good to be back. I have to ask you, we were talking pre-show. We've got our first international game coming up this week, Vikings-Steelers in London. You'll be getting up at what time to do some edits?
5 a.m. Got to update the projections, so that's going to be fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's just a little behind the curtains here of the hard work going in to get you guys the information that you need. So appreciate. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, light a candle for us at church, whatever makes you guys feel like you're giving back. We'll be very much appreciative. So let's hop right into it here. We've got 4 guys today, 2 risers, 2 followers as always. And I want to start with yours because I think, man, talk about a guy who is who's doing people right. Jaylen Warren, running back, Pittsburgh Steelers. Tell us about Jaylen Warren today.
Yeah, you see that signature stat right there. The running back 6 in expected points per game so far. And he's also the running back 14 in real points per game. The usage has been great overall, 14th in weighted opportunities per game and 8th in target share. And I think that this is fully sustainable. Rodgers has targeted running backs at a very high rate the last 2 seasons, and he seems to be taking that to a new level this year. Caleb Johnson is completely untrustworthy, it seems like. And I don't think throughout the whole year he's going to be able to earn the trust of Tomlin, Rodgers, and Arthur Smith at once. Just seems like a high bar to clear, in my opinion. And Warren is still explosive as well. He's the running back 16 in yards created per touch so far. So this is all shaping up to be a breakout season for Jaylen Warren.
Boy, you really hit it there. Talk about, I guess I hadn't really thought about the level of the ladder you have to go through in Pittsburgh between Tomlin and Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that makes getting into like rushing a sorority feel like a kid's picnic. I mean, that is brutal stuff right there. And this is a guy I have to eat crow on. And I want to earn credibility with the viewers here. I was not a Jaylen Warren guy, and it wasn't for lack of talent. And it didn't have anything to do with Najee. I was never heavily invested in him. I just thought that the staff had shown pretty consistent usage with him over the last 3 years as kind of not necessarily a spell guy, but just I thought his role was a little bit more identified as a few rushes here and there and the pass down work. Well, he's got egg on my face, man. 80% of the snap share on Sunday, like you said, was by far the highest of his career. He's finally married the rushing with the receiving. The yards per carry isn't great, but I think that's more indicative of the problem with the Steelers' offensive line. Some injuries there, some guys not playing up to speed. You mentioned Rodgers, and maybe we should have seen this coming. Steelers are 6th in running back targets right now. They were Rodgers and the Jets were 5th in the same statistic last year. So that kind of takes the offensive line out of the equation a little bit for a guy who's making a lot of his money catching passes.
Yeah, I think that kind of illustrates why Caleb Johnson isn't getting any run at all, because he's not trusted in pass protection and he's not much of a receiver. And that's really all that Aaron Rodgers cares about at this point. So I'm not expecting that to change. And I agree. I also wasn't super high on Jaylen Warren this year because I thought Caleb Johnson would have a role. And we were just wrong about that. Everybody was wrong about that. So what can you do?
That's it. We're just trying to spin this the right way possible. So, the offensive line is really probably going to be what determines if he's a borderline RB1 or if he's closer to that RB 2022, but he's definitely a fixture of lineups going forward. The good news is that, despite all of that, like you said, you can take offensive line into account. You can take offensive success into account. You can take what's going on with Rodgers into account, all of that. When they ice Caleb Johnson like they have, and Kenneth Gainwell is the backup getting light duties, this is somebody you're going to want to keep a good eye on going forward.
Absolutely. My running back 15 right now in rest of season rankings.
That's going to be a fun group to watch going forward. That kind of RB 12 through 18 rank. It's pretty tight right now, but I like Warren's grip on the job. Let's move on to a guy who is not quite there yet, but maybe it's coming. He's in year 2 here. We have got Blake Corum, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. Our signature stat on the bottom right corner right there, you see Kyren Williams just had his first consecutive games as a starter with his snap share being in the 70% range. So if you're a Corum guy, This is obviously isn't somebody you're starting or even probably hoping to start soon, but you are seeing the signs of a potential coming back to earth a little bit for the grip that Kyren Williams has had on this backfield. He finally Corum finally cracked top 60 in our seasonal rankings. So he's RB 59 and rising. That's what we like. 97 yards and a touchdown over the last 2 games, a 7.07 yards per carry, which of course is as much of an offensive line stat as it is for him. But Evan, for me, when I watch him, he's using the patience that Le'Veon Bell used to show, but he's using an explosion coming out of cuts that you're not really seeing Kyren Williams capable of doing. So I just have to wonder if this is going to end up being one of the more elite handcuffs we have in the league right now.
I think he definitely is. He's an amazing stash in all formats. If Kyren Williams was to go down, I think we would immediately see Blake Corum take over the Kyren Williams role, which would be incredibly valuable. We've always been very high on Corum at Player Profiler, and it's nice to see that pay off even after the Jarquez Hunter selection that we thought might impact it a bit. But Hunter has yet to play at all this year. So I think we can comfortably say that Corum is one of the best backups in the league right now. They're really just kind of doing like 2 series for Kyren, then 1 for Corum.
Yeah.
So Corum is still getting some good work, not really in the receiving game yet, but hopefully we can see that tick up.
Yeah, I think that would be it'd be nice to see. You really just have to makes you wonder if, the complexity of this offense and the trust of not just the quarterback, but the coach makes it so that year 2 is when these guys finally start to feel like they can get significant playing time. It happened with Kyren Williams. It's happening with Blake Corum right now. So maybe that Hunter thing is down the line at some point. And, Corum, maybe in some very deep leagues, he could be a fringe flex play because the splits splits is the wrong way to phrase it. The week before, when he was really ripping off these runs and he got the touchdown, they were pretty much dominating that game. And then this week against the Eagles, they go into that second half and they really just try to sit on the lead in the second half. They get tight. Kyron's the guy they trust a little bit more, so they give him the bulk of the carries. I would love to see what it looks like in another matchup when it's a little bit less, you're not playing arguably the best team in the league. So still have a lot of runway to go there. And the Rams have a top 5 run blocking unit, which has been fantastic. Their pass blocking has not been very good, but we're just talking about pure rush volume for Corum right now. So I do have 2 more bonus stats as we get out of here. Kyren Williams and Blake Corum each have 5 explosive runs this season. It took Kyren Williams 55 attempts to get there. It took Blake Corum 14 attempts to get there. So shout out Dave Kluge for that one. And this one's just a little bit more for the sickos out there. He's returned 8 kicks in the last 2 games. So that's only going to increase his chances for a guy that's able to make the cut and turn upfield like him. Does he run one back at some point? Who knows? It's definitely in the cards, though.
Yep. And he's still out there on waivers in a lot of casual leagues as well. So make sure you check your waivers. If you have some dude on the bench that you're never going to start, you might as well pick up Blake Corum instead, because if Kyren was to go down, all of a sudden you have a potential RB1.
Yeah, we've got a guy here coming up after the break that might actually be one of those guys you might want to end up dropping for him. So we'll throw it to the Podfather for a quick ad, and then after this, we'll come back.
People say, oh, there's so much free on Player Profiler. What's in the premium package? Well, it starts with the player rankings. We have the best process for ranking and projecting players, not just seasonal leagues, though. We're talking about tight end premium, specifically FFPC, best ball, specifically underdog, including their superflex rankings. And then we have IDP rankings, dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, Scott Fishbowl rankings, offensive line rankings by Dan Fornick, cornerback rankings throughout the season where you can see who's matched up with who. It's incredible. And think about who's contributed to our processes over time. Math majors, analytics powerhouses. Plus, you get the contributions from the real football guys. Billy Muzio, Dan Williamson, Bradley Stalder. That's why our rankings are the best. And if you want to upgrade and go all in, use promo code Underworld or your host promo code, and you get $25 off.
Evan, you're batting lead off in that in the star-studded cast right there of who's doing the contributions for Player Profiler. So take a bow for everybody. That's fantastic. Lovely. All right, so let's get right back into it here. We'll get to some fallers, and I'm going to once again tee you up here for your guy. Tell us about your first faller.
So this guy is Travis Hunter, and you see the signature stat right there. He is the wide receiver 84 in first read target share through the first 3 weeks. So far, over the last 2 games, he has actually played more snaps on defense than on offense, which is not what we expected coming into the season. And for what it's worth, his PFF defense grades are quite solid, while all of his offensive metrics are really not that great.
Mhm.
The thesis in drafting Travis Hunter in fantasy this year was more so not that he would be a full-time offensive player, but that when he's on the field, he would be earning targets at a very high rate. Currently, his target rate is 21.1%, wide receiver 43, which is not horrible, but it's not the elite target rate that he needs to be in our fantasy lineups. So right now, he's my wide receiver 52 in my rest of season rankings.
Yeah, this Jaguars passing attack, and I stress passing attack because the rushing game has been pretty damn good. The passing attack has been a mess, and we're not here to beat you guys over a dead horse with the Brian Thomas Jr. stuff and the Trevor Lawrence stuff, although it's not great. There's just some narrative stuff that I think people need to be aware of. There was a 4th and 2 with the game tied where the Jaguars had to call a timeout because Hunter didn't know if he was supposed to be in motion or not. It's little things like that that are going to make him cede playtime to a Parker Washington. Diami Brown gets hurt, but when he comes back, I mean, they clearly value these guys. And then you've got other plus contributors like Brenton Strange, like Basil Tootin catching passes out of the backfield. So it definitely makes me feel worse about him as a part of my team. And the stats don't help, right? He's 11th amongst qualified wide receivers in separation and win rate versus man, just things that you did not think you were going to have to worry about him when you drafted him. And a pretty good quarterback could cover this up. They do not have a pretty good quarterback right now. I'm not anti-Trevor Lawrence, but he's not playing good enough to support these options in this passing attack. He is, this blew my mind. He leads all quarterbacks since 2022 in first read throw rate, and he's on track for almost 80% this season right now. Think about all the bad quarterbacks we've seen over the last 3 years. He's ahead of all of them and not making it through his progression. So I feel very, very queasy when I think about what this could look like.
Yeah, I think you make some phenomenal points, especially about just how many players this target share will be divided between. So far, Brian Thomas has still seen very great usage, and we saw Parker Washington have elite usage last week. Clearly, they really like him, and Brenton Strange isn't going away either. He's going to be a consistent part of that offense. So I just don't really see how Travis Hunter gets there this year. I'm not cutting him yet, but he is on watch.
Yeah, he is on watch big time. And you mentioned the other players and their roles. Liam Cohen, and I want to shout out Coach Speaks Index here. Liam Cohen was specifically asked if Hunter's role would evolve with the injuries at wide receiver, and he very, very, very clearly said no, and that asking him to play X or Z was unfair at this stage. That just means much more for the other guys. It means this ball is going to be divvied around. The Shane Waldron zone is collecting another wide receiver, actually 2 of them. First, it came for JSN and then Rome, and now Brian Thomas Jr. and Hunter. And, you know, you kicked off this segment with the perfect, really full circle of all this. He's been pretty good at cornerback. And so with injuries at that position on the team, that's going to continue to be a major issue for playtime. Just tough stuff.
Yeah, and then the cherry on top is like you mentioned, that 1 4th down play where he doesn't know where to line up. It wasn't just the one play either. There was a couple more in this game. So that's just such a red flag. I'm really scared about what this is going to look like.
Yep, that's going to be tough. And he's name value, so everybody's aware of the situation. It's not like some of these other guys where maybe they have to dig into the stats a little bit more. His book is written right now, and it's not a bestseller. So let's get to another one here who I thought was, this one for me is kind of brutal because I didn't have high expectations, but I started to see a little bit of a path here. And that's going to be Browns running back Dylan Sampson. His signature stat of the week is not as elegant or in-depth as the other ones, 0 targets in week 3. But what that really surmises the most is that his role in this offense, which, I was hoping for maybe a poor man's Kareem Hunt where he was handling the passing down duties and then maybe spelled Judkins after a heavy workload. Well, a cold bucket of water was poured on that pretty quickly. I guess we're getting 2025 Kareem Hunt, actually, now that I think about it. That's the version we're getting and not 2021. He's plummeted down to RB 47 in our seasonal rankings, and what a short run it was for my short king. Where are you on Dylan Sampson post week 3 and the outlook going forward?
Yeah, he saw just 5 snaps last week. So, yeah, this is over. He's clearly the running back 3 there. Jerome Ford has all the pass catching work. I still think he's a good player. Like I still have some interest in Dynasty, because we've seen what he can do in the passing game, but it's just not going to happen this year, especially in a bad Browns offense. So what can you do? He's a cut in every redraft league, in my opinion.
Yep, this was who I was alluding to during that Blake Corum segment. This is somebody you can get out of lineups. If you're not dumping the ball off to him against the Packers and that pass rush with the offensive line that you have, I don't see much of a reason for them to incorporate that in the game plan going forward. Jerome Ford hauling in 4 on a 35% snap share. And, there is a caveat to where the Packers have only allowed 42 in total receiving yards to running backs through 3 games. But the problem is necessarily that those passes were going to another player on the team that I don't even know if is deserving of them. So if the Browns feel that way, I don't know why things would change. Maybe there was a hope that Judkins wouldn't look this good early, but man, does he look like the guy they drafted in the 2nd round. So probably not even a deep league handcuff at this point. There's too many other guys out there with more upside. So roster clogger for the time being.
Yeah. And also I should mention that Judkins had like 90% of the team's running back carries this week.
Yeah.
So Sampson isn't going to get any of that either. And even Judkins isn't that great of a fantasy asset because of it just being the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, their game plan is painfully obvious week to week what it is they're going to have to do. Joe Flacco is playing as bad as any quarterback has been. I know there's been a few slings here and there, but for the most part, it's tough to watch and it's not conducive to a great offensive ecosystem. And you're seeing all the other players suffer from it as well, not just Sampson. You're seeing the passing game ceiling limited. Eventually, defenses are going to key in on Judkins. And I know that, defensive personnel, especially 8 in the box, is only determined by the offensive personnel and what they run out. But man, there's not going to be a lot of fooling going on here. Stefanski's scheme is, 5 years old at this point. I think he was hired around 2020, maybe 2019, if I'm not mistaken there. But we know what they want to do. I just don't know if they have the overall horses to do it.
Yeah, I mean, totally agree. The silver lining for Judkins would be that this defense is actually good, so they're going to be in ball games, but it's still they're just not going to score enough touchdowns.
Yep. Not going to be there for them and not going to be there for us. So that'll kind of wrap up the risers and fallers segment here. So let's get to our Thursday night football preview. And, I spent a lot of time making this graphic here. And by a lot of time, I meant about 3 minutes. Not so bad here. We have got the Seattle Seahawks at 2-1 visiting the Arizona Cardinals at 2-1. Got a little AFC West divisional matchup. Both teams, Seahawks are probably feeling pretty good because they've been putting the clamps down. Cardinals can't be feeling great after letting this last week slip through their hands. So as you can see there, the spread is Seattle by 1.5, over under 43.5. So Evan, I'll ask you, who are you starting in this game fantasy-wise? Who are you fading in this game fantasy-wise?
So the automatic starts are JSN and McBride, obviously. You're not taking them out of your lineup.
Yep.
The questionable guys would be Trey Benson, Kenneth Walker, Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm going to say out of those 3, I feel most comfortable starting Trey Benson. He's going to get a lot of volume, even if I don't think the efficiency or touchdowns are going to be there this week. Seahawks defense has been really good against the run, but he is a high floor, low ceiling flex play, in my opinion. And then I feel the least confident in Marvin Harrison Jr., who he has been very close to several big plays this year, but the usage just isn't good enough. And the Seahawks defense, I think, is very real. A couple stats for you. Marv, 42nd in target share among receivers and 41st in expected points per game.
Man, that just really hurts to hear out loud. Not ideal. And, I think I was listening to the Yahoo Fantasy Show this morning, and they were talking about how nothing really changed this year for Marv, except for we hoped that he would get better. And
right, exactly.
You can maybe nitpick some of the route running stuff or point to some of it and say he's being used a little bit differently here. But overall, it's just not quite there. 2 games against the Seahawks last year, he had 6.2 points, and then he had 2.6 points. And then he had, where'd you go? I just had you teed up. My eyes are going on me. 6.9 points. So 12 points combined last year against this defense. And the defense has taken a big step up. I've got one wild card play here that I like what I've seen from him so far, and that's Torrey Horton coming on strong. Clint Kubiak compared him to early Justin Jefferson, which is unfair to do, but also if you own Torrey Horton, I mean, that's exactly what you want to see here. So, yeah, I completely agree with the Trey Benson talk also, but I will ask you your opinion on one guy so far that I think is an interesting guy just because I don't know specifically what his role can be differently anymore. How do you feel about Cooper Kupp in this matchup?
I just, unless you're in a deep league, I don't see Cooper Kupp as a fantasy starter. I think he's headed downhill. Torrey Horton's going to take a lot of his targets, in my opinion. By the way, Torrey Horton has already in his career been compared to Justin Jefferson and Jerry Rice. That might be bad. I don't know. I might want to sell that maybe. But yeah, I just think Cooper Kupp's over the hill. And unless it's a PPR 16-team league, I don't see him cracking lineups.
Yeah, the hope would be that somebody else wouldn't emerge from this offense, and it looks like it's happening already. I even think Arroyo looks pretty good if they're able to get him some more playtime as well. And AJ Barner making some big time catches. They have guys there, so that's not what you want to see if you're a Cooper Kupp owner. So we'll get us here on this. Last week, I nailed Miami covering, even if they didn't get to 34 points here. I felt pretty good about that, though. How do you feel about the spread and the over/under for this matchup?
I like the Seahawks money line with the under. I'm expecting a gross game, but the Seahawks defense is the best unit in the game, in my opinion. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be able to score any touchdowns, maybe. I'm going 20-16 Seahawks.
Oh, man. See, we disagreed last week, but we're in lockstep this week. I'm also taking Seattle, and I'm smashing the over. I think this is going to be 24-7 Seattle. And I think they're going to establish themselves as a potential top 6, top 7 team, maybe even better if this offense keeps playing well. Sam Darnold doing pretty well, 6 in the NFL in passing yards, only 3 sacks. So hopefully it looks like nobody lost the Geno Sam Darnold who got the better deal here. So that makes you feel good. Evan, you got any parting thoughts, anything you're working on before we get on our merry way?
Not really. Just follow me on X at Evan Ringler FF, and then all my works at PlayerProfiler.com, advanced metrics, rankings, projections, all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Yeah. Hopefully you guys are over there at Player Profiler checking out everything we have to offer. We've got some league winning material for you guys. I will be going live Sunday at 8 a.m. for our Start Sit show as usual. So until then, just have a damn good time. Cheers.